Years ago, the bugle call ceasefire was sounded, ending World War I. In a railway coach in France, on that day, on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, an armistice was signed, formally ending the war, which was to end all wars. Armistice Day, as it was originally called, was started to celebrate the end of World War I. It received its formal name by Congress in 1926 and became a national holiday 12 years later. After World War II, communities began honoring veterans who returned on Armistice Day. Many refer to these celebrations as Veterans Day to include these veterans of World War II. Veterans Day is primarily a tribute to all America's living veterans and is typically observed more as a celebration, while we traditionally reserve Memorial Day as a somber remembrance to those who gave their lives for their country and to those who have since crossed over to the other shore. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to Veterans Day 2019. Please rise for the posting of the colors and the national anthem, which will be sang by Mrs. Sandy Hall.
Color guard, forward, march. Color guard, post your colors. Hand salute. Order. Arm.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets ring clear, the bombs bursting in air gave it proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Order. Arm. Out face. Forward. March.
You may be seated. I'd like to have Mr. Rodney Funk, President of the Veterans Council, please come forward at this time for the invocation.
Today we are here to honor those who have served our country and
have given their lives so that we may stand here and live in freedom. We need to be constantly reminded of our gift of freedom and those who gave all to make sure future generations continue to know life in a free, democratic society. Remembering those who have passed is only half of the task that is before us today. We must also carry their love, honor, and duty forward to the future generations that will pass. Our children must know who they were, what they did, and why they did it. To do anything less will be a disservice to their sacrifice and their memories. Those who are gone create a clear pathway for us to continue on. We must never waver from that path of freedom and democracy. Take their memories, take their dreams, and walk forward, shouldering the cause of freedom. Carry it high and proud as they did. Now you must walk forward for them and for our children.
On this day, our nation and our community honors all veterans and our men and women currently serving in the armed forces. We especially honor those who have taken the stand in harm's way to preserve our freedom. Over 48 million veterans have served our great country since its inception, with 22 million living today. Of the millions who have served since the end of World War I, the U.S. has lost nearly 400,000 soldiers killed in action. Huntington County has lost 18 World War I veterans, 91 World War II, 8 in Korea, 16 in Vietnam, 1 in Iraq, and 1 in Afghanistan. Today, we are honored to have the families of many of those fallen heroes with us today. Thank you for being here. Please rise for the 21-gun salute and playing of taps. Please be seated. I'd like to take a moment to thank those in attendance that have helped make this our 7th Veterans Day Parade a success. I'd like to thank our county commissioners, Mr. Larry Buzzer, Mr. Tom Wall, and Mr. Rob Miller, who wholeheartedly support our veterans and their families. I would also like to thank Mayor Brooks for the support he has provided for veterans in our community and for his vision of our Veterans Memorial Park. Also, without the support of Huntington County Veterans Council and President Mr. Rodney Funk, the many posts and their members, events like today could not even be imagined. And lastly, the many volunteers that made this happen, especially Mr. Steve Kimball, the Chamber of Commerce President, Mrs. Lisa Tackett, and others too numerous to mention. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Larry Buzzard, who has a letter from the Commissioners of Huntington County. Good morning. I'm honored to be here today representing the Huntington County Commissioners at this Veterans Day Parade and celebration. Being here with members of our VFW and American Legions, along with members and veterans of the Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, and Coast Guard, fills my heart with pride. As Americans, I can think of no higher calling or of a more honorable duty than serving in our armed forces. You veterans entered the service as young men and women, answering our call. Upon leaving the service, you returned home to build this great country. You have helped make the United States of America the world leader, economically, militarily, and morally. I'm proud to be honored to be with you today and every day. On behalf of Huntington County, we want to say thank you, God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. At this time, I'd like to welcome Mr. Chris Crabtree, who has a letter to share from Congressman Banks.
Thank you for the opportunity to gather with you today and share a greeting on behalf of Congressman Banks, who is in Washington today. Dear fellow Hoosiers, thank you for being here to honor the brave men and women who have served our country in the armed forces. Many of you here today have put your lives on the line and demonstrated the great strength and resolve of the American spirit. We are forever grateful for your sacrifices and the sacrifices of all past and present members of the United States military. Your selfless service allows us to remain free and secure in our communities today. This Veterans Day, we reflect upon a century since the first Armistice Day by honoring the great heroes of World War I. We remember the sacrifices of our grandfathers and great-grandfathers in that conflict, and we are proud of the inspiration which they continued to serve us today. I appreciate the hard work of all of you who have contributed to making this celebration a success. May God bless you and all of those who serve. Sincerely, Jim Banks, Member of Congress, Indiana's 3rd District. Thank you.
Mr. Rodney Funk.
It's truly an honor for me to be standing here today speaking to you folks. More importantly, what we need to be doing today is paying attention to what we have here. I've been very fortunate the last few years in my VFW career to be able to travel all over Indiana. I've been in, I won't say I've been in every Veterans Memorial Park, but I've been in a lot of them. And I want to guarantee you, this is one of the best Veterans Memorial Parks for our size city, our population in the state of Indiana. We owe this to the foresight of one individual. An individual I'm here to honor today. Mayor Fetters, would you come up here, please? Black leads in effect. The Huntington County Veterans Council, with our deepest appreciation, hereby honors Mayor Brooks Fetters for his unwavering support and efforts made on behalf of the veterans of Huntington County. We salute you.
Thank you, Rodney, and to the Veterans Council for the honor that you just presented. It's truly a privilege, and it is my deep desire that this place is a place that continues to be special and sacred in the hearts and the lives of people who call this great community and county home. For you see, it's at this place that we honor all those who have served. We remember all those who sacrificed. We instruct all those who are yet to come and are willing to learn. And we celebrate all the freedoms and liberty that we enjoy in this country that have been earned and maintained and fought for by the veterans of our country. To all of our veterans today, we salute you. Congratulations and happy Veterans Day. Today, as we participate in this great ceremony on 2019, I would like to first ask the Daughters of the American Revolution to place the wreath that they have brought for the first time in a long time to be placed at the DAR Memorial at the gateway to the Veterans Memorial. Let's thank the DAR for their recognition of those who fought for our nation's liberty. Thank you, ladies. We appreciate your participation in the services today. As well, I am proud to be a part of the fact that around the circle under the plane, what we call the Circle of Honor, is now complete. And I want to thank the Huntington County Veterans Council for making it possible to raise the funds to place once again, all the names of those from Huntington County killed in action are now on display for permanent remembrance around this Ring of Honor. Rodney and others, would you stand if you're part of the Veterans Council and take applause? Thank you all. I'm also very pleased to be able to announce today that we have a temporary permanent memorial listing the names of two gentlemen, one killed in Operation Iraqi Freedom and one killed in Operation Enduring Freedom. The names of Paul Pavla and Chad Clements will now be unveiled by Mr. Corey McClure, the Post Commander of DFW Post 2689, and Mr. Stan Kowalski, Post Commander of American Legion Post 7. Gentlemen, would you please unveil the name? That plaque and those names will be available for you to see after the ceremony today. But this does bring to completion and to current all those who have lost their lives in the sacrifice of freedom from Huntington County. Last but not least, it is my privilege today to introduce Mr. Vance Patterson, the Executive Director and Founder of Foundations Forward and Charters of Freedom. About a year and a half ago, a gentleman from this community by the name of Mark Featherston came to me with a name and an organization that does everything they can to develop responsible citizenry and to remind people of the freedoms and the liberties that we enjoy. It is a pay it forward kind of process. Vance will talk more about that today. But as you see over here to the north of the monument, we will have a permanent display within the next few weeks that will be completed that will present for all to see the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of the United States, and the Bill of Rights. They are designed to last for the next 300 to 500 years. There is a time capsule that you'll hear more about today, but this has been funded through the gifts and donations of numerous people and also through the great generosity of the Charters of Freedom Foundation, headed by Mr. Vance Patterson. Would you please welcome Mr. Patterson to the stage?
I am so proud of y'all for being here today to honor your veterans and celebrate your Veterans Park here. My question is, are you ready to become a part of history? Because we're going to dedicate your Charters of Freedom setting. And it's going to be, as Mayor Fetters said, it's going to be here for the next 300 to 500 years. And your future generations are going to know you were here. My name is Vance Patterson. I'm from Burke County, North Carolina. That's in the western part, up near Asheville. I'm a father of 4, married 45 years to my wife, Mary Jo. I'm a businessman. I have a company that makes industrial fans. We actually make things out of metal, ship them across the country and around the world. I am an American manufacturer. I'm going to tell you a little about the inspiration behind coming up with Foundation Forward, which has made your Charters of Freedom setting here possible. I'm going to give you a little idea of what is behind the building of the setting, and then I'm going to give you a challenge at the end. 8 years ago, Mary Jo and I were up in Washington, D.C., and we decided to go over to the National Archives because we'd never seen the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution before. We found ourselves wandering down these hallways looking at different displays, and then we'd open up into this large room. We'd walk through these big bronze gates into this rotunda, and there were the founding documents on the other side. They're in chronological order: Declaration of Independence on the left, 4 pages of the Constitution in the middle, and Bill of Rights on the right. This is when we learned that these are known as the Charters of Freedom. Now, one of the things I liked was once you got in the room, in this rotunda, there were no lines. You wander around looking at different exhibits, and when you get a chance, you step up and look at the founding documents. And I'll never forget the first time I saw the Declaration of Independence. Something our founding fathers actually penned. And then I saw their signatures: Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, Rutledge, Wilson, and the others. I just got goosebumps. And then when we moved over and saw the first page of the United States Constitution, and those 3 words, "We the people," I actually got a lump in my throat. I looked over, and Mary Jo was wiping tears out of her eyes. It was really an emotional experience for us. Well, a year later, back in Burke County, I started thinking about this experience, and the thought came to me, what if I could duplicate that experience and bring it back to the citizens of Burke County? So I went inside and I told Mary Jo about it. She liked the idea, so we started working on a project. And it turned out to be an education project. And the scope was to design and build a replica of the Charters of Freedom as displayed in the rotunda. Put that in a central location in Burke County. It had to have high visibility, high foot traffic, and easy access for school children and veterans. Well, it took 2 years to get this done. Even though it was a gift for Mary Jo and I to the county, we ran into a number of problems. The biggest problem was that there are no prints, no designs, no measurements, no layouts or anything of what we saw up in Washington. And we looked a lot. And so after a late night joint session of the Burke County Commissioners and the Morganton City Council, we got approval to do this project. Well, the next morning, Mary Jo and I got up, got in the car, and drove back up to Washington. Now, they won't let you take out a tape measure and just measure a national treasure, but we had a plan. Mary Jo went one way, and I went another, and I stepped up in front of the U.S. Constitution, and I did this. And I was standing about in the middle. So I knew it was about 12 feet long. Meanwhile, Mary Jo is walking up to the settings, turned around and facing the audience, and marking on her body the different elevations. And then we left before anybody started asking us questions.
So I tell people, while your setting may not be identical to the one up in Washington, keep in mind it's based on 2 paces of a short guy and 3 marks on my wife's body. Well, on July 2nd, 2014, we dedicated the first Charters of Freedom setting outside of Washington, D.C., in downtown Morganton in Burke County on the old courthouse green. Now, we enjoyed this process so much and it was so well received, we decided to do another one in Cherokee County, which is as far west as you can go in North Carolina, little town of Murphy. We dedicated that on September 17th, 2014, Constitution Day. The third one went downtown Asheville in Buncombe County. Now, during this time, we decided to set up a 501c3, a foundation, education foundation, because we knew we were going to be doing more. The 3 main principles of the foundation, number 1 and most important, is education. We wanted to provide a platform for school teachers to educate the kids on American history and civics government. Number 2 was access. We wanted, not everybody could get up to Washington, D.C. to see the original documents. And it took Mary Jo and I over 60 years to get up there the first time. So we wanted to provide access to these founding documents in a proper setting in the community. And number 3 is community. We want to provide a place for communities to gather, to celebrate, to honor, and to reflect on the founding of our country and all the sacrifices that have taken place to maintain this country. To date, we have dedicated 26 Charters of Freedom settings across the country. In North Carolina, South Carolina, Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois, Nebraska, South Dakota, and as far west as Carson City, Nevada. Yours is the 27th setting. The third one in Indiana, which makes Indiana ahead of all other states other than North Carolina. So way to go, Indiana. Now let me tell you a little about your setting here. As you can see, it's not complete, and that is my fault. Like many people these days, in this booming economy and robust times, we commit to more than we can get to by the end. We're about 2 weeks behind on your setting. So rest assured, I guarantee it will be finished in short order, and you will be very proud of it, and it will be awesome. Now, your setting, one of the things I learned in life is that if you want a setting or a monument to last, you put more underground than above ground. This is not a tip-over monument. Your foundation goes down 3.5 feet. It is solid, reinforced poured concrete. It then comes up into a solid core. Just the core and the foundation of that centerpiece weighs over 38,000 pounds, over 19 tons. It will then be covered with 4 inches of brick and mortar. There will be 6 documents displayed. All are life-size, which means the Declaration of Independence is a little bit larger than the others. Each one is on 1/4-inch etched bronze and weighs over 60 pounds. The script on it, the original documents, is a little difficult to read, so we changed the script so you got it to a font that you can read. However, the signatures are identical to what's on the original documents. Another thing you need to realize is that there is no historic document for the Bill of Rights. What's on display in Washington is the first 12 amendments proposed, signed by John Adams, President of the Senate. The first 2 amendments were not approved, only the last 10. And those 10 approved amendments are your Bill of Rights. There will be a logo on the front, an emblem, which is very special. It was designed by a number of artists around the country. The eagle on the emblem will represent the Declaration of Independence. Proud, bold, defiant. There'll be 7 stars above the eagle, which stand for the 7 articles of the U.S. Constitution. And there'll be 10 stars underneath the eagle, which represent the 10 First Amendments, your Bill of Rights. As mentioned earlier, there will be a vault. There's a vault in the back, and that vault will be a time capsule. I'll tell a little more about that later. People ask us why we're doing this. And I tell them, yes, it's very expensive, but it's more important than money. We believe this gives us a direct link to our founding fathers by helping to preserve what it is they gave this country, a government to serve and protect we the people. We learned that we had two founding fathers who were very big on education. Thomas Jefferson, who was third president of the United States, actually penned most of the Declaration of Independence, and Benjamin Franklin. He was an inventor, a scientist, he was an author, a publisher, he was a politician, a political theorist, and he was truly a sage. He is the one they would go to when they really got stuck on a problem for his wisdom. Well, these two believed that in order to have a free and independent country, you must understand how government works, that you cannot control what you do not understand. Thomas Jefferson, in 1789, said, "Whenever a people are well informed, they can be trusted with their government." And James Madison, a 5'4" virtual rock star of his era, wrote in 1822, "A people who mean to be their own governors must arm themselves with the power knowledge gives." You wouldn't believe how many people come up to us when we're building these and say, "That's it, just 4 pages to the Constitution?" And we say, "That's it. All of our laws and our government are based on those 4 pages." You wouldn't believe how many people don't know that the first 10 amendments are our Bill of Rights. I guarantee there are people here who learn that today. You see, education. Now, you may have noticed, I haven't been calling this a monument. That's because the definition of a monument is a memorial to honor a person or an event. This is not a memorial. This is an active, hands-on educational supplement for your school's curriculum. Imagine, if you will, teachers bringing their 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade classes out here to your Charters of Freedom on annual field trips to learn a little about the founding documents, the history surrounding our founding of the country. And while they're here, they can learn a little about the federal government, state government, local government, and local heroes. This is happening already across the country in communities that have their own Charters of Freedom setting. And the kids love these field trips. Remember the field trips you took when you were a child and how those were life experiences. Well, imagine the experience they're going to have coming out and learning about the founding of their country before they get older. And then they can bring their kids out when they get old enough, and on and on. It'll really be a great life experience for them. There are 3,142 counties, boroughs, parishes, independent cities, census zones, and the District of Columbia in the United States. Our goal as a foundation is to place Charters of Freedom settings in as many of those communities as possible over the next 10 years. Our hope is that our future generations will come from communities that have their own Charters of Freedom, that their kids will grow up no longer talking just about the Declaration or the U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights of Washington, but they'll be talking about their Constitution and their Bill of Rights, the ones they grew up with right here in Huntington County. Our founding fathers were challenged to stand up against the mightiest power of their time, the British Empire. They protested, they revolted, they fought a war, and they won that war. And all that time, they were setting up a government to represent the people of the United States. And that government is still in place over 230 years later, and duplicated by over 60% of the countries around the world. It was an amazing accomplishment. They were challenged, they stepped up, and they met that challenge. Mayor Fetters was challenged to bring a Charters of Freedom setting here to your community. I'm sorry. I didn't want to have to stand there for the rest of what I'm going to say. He met that challenge, working with Foundation Forward and brought your charters of freedom here to your community. Your challenge actually started about 2 years ago. We had just finished dedicating a Charters of Freedom setting at Hanover College in southern Indiana. And Mary Jo and I were getting ready to leave, and I looked across the campus center, and there was a guy that had helped me a lot during the dedication to set up. I said, I need to thank this guy again. This guy's name is Ron Wells. He's African-American facilities and maintenance engineer for Hanover College. So I walked over and I walked up to Ron and I was shaking his hand. I said, Ron, thanks again for all the help you gave me during this dedication. And he said, Mr. Patterson, thank you for making this addition to our community. And I said what I usually say, well, you're welcome. Just make sure people use it after we leave for education. And he said, Mr. Patterson, I've already done that. I took my son over last night and we had the talk. And I said, Ron, that means more to me than anything anybody has ever said. Way to go. So here's your challenge. After we leave, you do what Ron Wells did. You bring your child, your grandchild, your niece, your nephew, or other family member down here to your Charters of Freedom. And you tell them about their freedoms and their rights, and how those freedoms and rights give them an advantage over the rest of the world to pursue their passion, to chase their dreams, to accomplish their goals and get out of life what it is they want to get out of life. You do that, and we at Foundation Forward, as far as our gift portion is concerned, we will call it even. Thank you. Okay, Mayor Federson, please come up. Mayor Fetters, the Charters of Freedom setting located in Veterans Park within Memorial Gardens, Huntington, Indiana, is hereby gifted from Vance and Mary Jo Patterson of Burke County, North Carolina, to the children, veterans, and citizens of Huntington County, Indiana. All rights, responsibilities, and care for this setting, displaying the Declaration of Independence, the United States Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, are hereby transferred to Huntington County this day, November 9th, 2019.
Thank you, Vance. On behalf of the citizens of the city of Huntington, on behalf of Commissioners Larry Buzzard, Rob Miller, Tom Wall, I want to thank Charters of Freedom for their gift of the Charters of Freedom display here at Memorial Park in the center of Huntington County. It is our desire to continue to uphold the challenge that you've given us to educate our children here and also in future generations to understand at a very deep level the freedoms and liberties we enjoy. Thank you very much.
All right, we've got just two other things to do as far as our part, which are kind of fun. As I mentioned earlier, there is a time capsule in the back. In that time capsule, we're not going to seal it today, but we're going to put letters from education group here, from veterans groups, from veterans, from law enforcement and county commissioners. Mayor Fetters will, of course, put a letter in there, and other memorabilia of the area. We're going to seal that later, and also anybody who signs up back here, you need to sign the registration back here. There's archival paper. It will show your future generations that you were here for the dedication. Those papers will also go in the time capsule. Once we seal it up, it won't be open until September 17th, 2087. That is the 300th anniversary of the U.S. Constitution. All time capsules will be open the same day across the country, so it should be pretty interesting. All letters will be read and everything. Now, if you're here for that opening of the time capsule, we have given the accommodation to Mayor Fetters. So if you're here and there's any problem opening it, you know who had it last. Okay, the last thing we're going to do on our part is a cannon salute. If my cannoneers will please report over to Barry Snyder. And if my drummer will come up. When we first did a dedication back in 2014, I knew I wanted to do a cannon salute, but I didn't know how many times to fire the cannon. I knew that 21 was not right, so I did a little research and learned that the cannon salute originated back in the 1600s. When a ship pulling into port, they didn't know the port didn't know if the ship was friendly or not, so the ship would turn its guns to sea and discharge 7 rounds. Now, 2 things happen when you discharge a weapon. First of all, you weaken your position, and second, you show honor to the other side. Well, the fort would answer, having more cannon and more powder, would answer 3 in kind. So that's where the 21 gun salute came from. Well, I knew that wasn't right. So I remembered that I'd done business up in Scotland, and they had told me in Scotland that the Scottish liked the way the British marked the time of day at noon. The British would fire 12 rounds, and so the ship's captains and shopkeepers could set their clocks. Well, the Scottish, being Scottish, and that is my heritage, reasoned, why fire 12 rounds at noon when we can wait 1 hour and save 11 rounds? So there is a howitzer in the old fort in Edinburgh that fires 1 round at 1 o'clock in the afternoon so you can set your clock. So I knew my number was somewhere between 1 and 21. And I decided on 7, partly because of history, but also because there are 7 articles in the U.S. Constitution. So we're going to fire 1 round for each article of the U.S. Constitution. Now my drummer today is Rich McConnell. And my cannoneers. Barry, are we ready? All right, drum roll please. Article 1 defines the legislative branch, composed of the House of Representatives and the Senate. It describes their powers and responsibilities. Article 2 defines the executive branch, the qualifications for the president and vice president, their powers, responsibilities, and means of removal from office. Article 3 sets up the judicial branch, the Supreme Court and the lower court system. It protects the right of trial by jury and defines treason. Article 4 gives the states the right to make and carry out their own laws related to the people and problems of their state, so long as those problems do not conflict with the United States Constitution. Article 5 outlines the process of amending the United States Constitution. Article 6 sets up the status of the United States Constitution as the supreme law of the land, to which all branches and leaders, including the legislative, executive, and judicial, must be loyal. Article 7 addresses the ratification and declares that the United States Constitution should take effect if 9 of 13 states ratify. Children, citizens, veterans of Huntington County, I give you your charters of freedom.
Please rise for the retiring and colors.
Today we remember all those who have come before us and given the greatest gift of our democratic nation, their lives. Their duty, their honor, and their lives are precious gifts that must be given to the future of our country and our families. The duty of our veterans, past and present, is the fiber of the word freedom, and is stronger by our recognition of service and sacrifice. We honor that service and sacrifice today and should carry it forward for our children to honor. Freedom and democracy are the result of all the most honorable this country has produced. Today we stand to remember the most honorable amongst us, and we must continue to carry the burden of their sacrifice, lest we lose sight of what true freedom is. Today is remembering. Stand in honor of them. Walk in their path of duty. Remember the cost and hold your heart the cause of freedom. Because we remember today, Veterans Day.
That concludes our 2019 Veterans Day ceremony. Thank you for attending and supporting the Huntington County Veterans.